Welcome to the a la carte sports betting channel, aka the Parlay Kitchen. My name is Matty Ice, Matthew Winkler, Matt Man, whatever you want to call me, man. Don't care because we're just here to talk about sports. So, I'm wearing this headband first off because this earbud is broken. It hangs out. So, until I get a new one, welcome to the Cholo Sports Betting Podcast Week, cabrons. Ay, but today, what I want to talk about is the national title football game. Figured that's a good one to talk about, considering I guessed the two people that would be going into it, which was Washington versus Michigan. Both of them have won me money, so I think it's a good time to break down who I think is probably going to be the one to win the national title. So we'll start with Michigan first. Michigan has a good all around team. The positives of them is their quarterback is J.J. McCarthy, who can whip it and dish it. So he's definitely a great threat to have on your team. And from the last game against Alabama, he showed pretty good versatility. If he's getting uh, locked in the pocket by the lineman and breaks out of it, he makes the decision and gets some quality yards on his feet too. So it's not just all with his arm. So that's a great thing to have if you're a Michigan fan. When it comes to the running game, I believe it's Brian Corum. Very good also. Not really what I would consider like the best of all time or anything like that. He did do great with Michigan by breaking their all time record with rushing. But the reason I say that he might not be the best of all time, and this is kind of going to a negative of Michigan, is their schedule that they've played this year. I think this schedule was designed to get them into contention to the national title. Because going over their games, they only played, I believe, three top 20 schools this season, which would be Penn State, Ohio State, and Iowa. And if you break down Penn State, they dropped pretty deep into the top 20. I think landing probably like 17 or something like that. And then Ohio State at the time was ranked number 2 when Michigan beat them. But Ohio State just lost their bowl game. So to me, that's not really saying that they're a standout team. I think they just kind of got hype being Ohio State. So it looks like a good win, but I don't think it's all that quality. And then they beat Iowa, who was in the top 20, purely for their defensive talent. But I don't know why the hell Iowa's in the top 20. I think there's a lot of teams that probably could beat them given the chance. And then their most quality win was Alabama, which they did have to take to overtime, and they did have to clutch it at the end of regulation to even get to that point. So props to them for clutching it. But going back to my original statement in this kind of series on the college bowls, is that Alabama has not looked like the stout team that we've come to know and love of that team. They kind of looked human this year. So I think Michigan got the best of them just on that day. I think you play that game, 10 times, it's 5-5. So going both sides. So not really, uh, guaranteed lock that they're going to win this national title. Um, so going to the Washington side, they're going to have a wheeler and dealer in Michael Penix Jr., Heisman probably winner this year based on his performance. And yeah, I think he's actually going to be the better quarterback in this game, uh, but kind of a big margin. But it's going to become how good is he on the day that they play, because Michigan does have one of the better defenses he will see when it comes to their like zone and throwing defense. So he's going to have to find some tight windows, which I think he can do. Just how many mistakes will come in that game along with finding those windows. So going to their running back, it's Dustin Johnson, I believe is his name. Let's make sure. Dylan Johnson, my bad, Dylan. Uh, but he's a good running back as well. He gives them good versatility because you can't just rely on Penix to throw the ball all game. So I think when it comes to like the two offensive players for both teams, it's going to be kind of a cross cancel. If one team scores, the other has just as good of tools to do so. When it comes to defense, though, Washington's defense, I do think, is going to be the lower end of both of these teams. So I do start to lean towards the Michigan side when it comes to picking a team to win the title, because defenses win championships, and you can only rely on Penix in this game so much to catch those windows and be perfect. I mean, if he is good for the kid, because he's good. And going to like their schedule this year, this is where the decision becomes not like as one side as it's starting to show in the betting market. Is they've faced 7 top contenders, top 20 contenders this year, and beaten every single one, being 14-0. But they beat Arizona, quality offensive team. They beat Oregon the first time around, 36-33, so super close game. A field goal in at the end of regulation won that game. They out offensed USC, considering UFC's an only offensive team also. They played a good, tight, hard-fought game against Utah, being kind of well-rounded, but what is the saying? Like, an artiste of many, or great at many crafts, a master of nothing, is kind of what I saw of Utah this year. And then they faced Oregon State, which I think just kind of overperformed this year on who I think that team and organization is overall. And they played Oregon again, and that game I was rooting big time for Oregon because I'm a Ducks fan in that sense. I think they do well year in and year out, but Washington did them again dirty by winning 3 points. But that Oregon game, beating them twice, shows me that this team is not a fluke team. They deserve to be where they're at. And then they beat the number ranked 3 team, Texas. And that to me was a pretty good thing to see going into this national title. And what makes it kind of a hard decision, I think, is that game, of course, getting to this point. So the betting market right now is Washington is plus 154 and Michigan is minus 185. And when you correlate that to odds, that means that they're going to give Washington a 37.88% chance of winning and Michigan an outright chance on the money line of a 62.12% chance of winning. So I do think those odds are kind of wide. What I would, if I'm the bookie in this game, I'm going to give Washington like a 40 to 45% chance of winning this game, and then leaning the rest of the percentages towards Michigan, so 55 to 60, however far those two get from each other, right? And so right now the best value bet is going to be on the Washington money line, but it's hard to get there, right? Like when I think about the outcome of this game, like how I see that happening is Washington is going to run up the score and Michigan's going to play keep up, and then whoever has that last possession is going to get a field goal to seal the deal, if that's the probability and outcome of the game. If Michigan just starts running away with it, which is very real too with their defensive standard that they've been showing, I do think the money line of Michigan's good, but the price for it is overpriced, so you can't really bet it if you're really trying to do this like profitably, which is kind of what this a la carte sports betting channel's about. I want you to find like what you want on the menu for the best price. And so what I'm looking at here is waiting until the day of the game and seeing how many points they're going to lay with Washington. Because if the points they're as of right now at -4.5 or +4.5 for Washington, -4.5 for Michigan, if that gets up to, I'm going to say 6, for Washington plus 6. I think 6 points is a large enough uh, spread for them to cover that. And if they lose by just a touchdown, that will suck, of course, but that's gambling. I'd rather be 1 point away waiting for that spread than to jump the gun and get this 4.5 and be 2.5, or yeah, like 2.5 points roughly away from, victory or a push. So 6 is kind of the goal if I'm going to bet Washington. And then if you're going to bet Michigan, it's kind of hard to find the value in betting Michigan. I think that's more or less a live betting standard, and you hope that Washington goes up by the first touchdown, and then the odds will have to change in Michigan's favor. And I would say like anything minus 120, 140 is probably the price range that I would want to pay for that team. And so it's all about like this type of standard of betting when you do value betting. Like I could place a pre-flop bet on this game and get the least than quality value, or I can just wait till the game happens and get the best quality value, reading how the game's kind of going and what you're seeing in the moment itself. So to go off of all that talk, what I think is the money line pick and what I think is going to happen this year is I do think Michigan is going to be the national title. I think they have all the tools and are more well-rounded than Washington when it comes to these very high pressure, high quality moments in one's organization. I think Washington's had kind of a good Cinderella story up until this point. And I'm happy for them. I'm not happy that they beat Oregon twice, at least give them one, but they would have never been in this spot if that were the case. So I'm going to lean Michigan for the win, and then the best value bet I think is going to be the plus 6 if it can get there by game time with Washington. The final score I'll predict, because they have the line at 55, which is a good thing to talk about, I guess. I think this game will go over 55. How I kind of like to do my math, in case anyone's curious, is the line is currently 55.5 for the game to go over. So as long as it gets to 56 points, you win your bet. But from the 55.5, I'll subtract what the current spread is, which is 4.5. And so that is 51. So if the casino were being fair, I think the line should be at 51 as the most accurate line. And so with that being said, I think these teams are very high paced, and I'll divide the 51 by 2 since there's 2 teams, and that gives me 25.5. So the question becomes, do you think both teams can acquire 26 points, or do you think one team can be just below that at like 24 and the other team carry the remaining 1.5 to 2 points? And I think that's very doable on both sides for them to get in 4 quarters at least 25 points. So that's actually probably my favorite bet on this board. I'm just not a huge point spread type of guy. Just not what I like to watch the game for is points. I'd rather find who you think has the better tools and athletes and that desire to win. So with that being said, Michigan's the team I will choose to win the national title this year. And that's about all I have on this game. If you have any questions or anything like that, leave them in the comments. I'll try to get back to you on that as I'm just starting this off. So thanks for watching up until this point. Cheers to all of you for that. And as always, stay hungry for that win. Cheers, boys.